welcome back to my channel Code with Hafiz. In today's video we're gonna create the curriculum of our course management system. So to show you, as you remember in our previous video we have created the tab for the curriculum here. So in here we will create this part, so you can see we can add a new section here. So for example section 7, and you can cancel this process, or to create it you can click on this button and you can see it will be added to the list. And this is also draggable, so their position will be updated, and this is a new feature, and the edit feature is inline for each of the sections. So if you click on it you can edit it on the same line. So let's say updated, and if you update it you can see it is being updated. And if you want to delete it you can do that too. So if you click on this and you can delete it successfully like this. And last but not least, each of these sections are accordion, so then we will add the functionality to add lessons inside each section. So this is what we're gonna build, so let's get started. So this is where we left in our previous video. So if we click on this edit manage, we created the update form or the landing page. So in our curriculum we have nothing. Now let's start building the curriculum. So the first thing that we will do is to create the curriculum is to create the model and the migration. So let's get back to the terminal. So in here I'm already in the project directory. Now we will create a table for our sections, so we will name it course section. Now let's say PHP artisan make model, and let's name it course section, and to create its migration let's say -m and press enter. Now this being done, let's open our project in VS Code and let's open that migration. So let's open this last file, and now we will add all the columns that we need. So the first thing that we need, because each course section relates to a course, so we need a foreign ID of course ID. So let's duplicate this one, and instead of ID let's say foreign ID. Now let's say foreign ID like this, and this should be single or, and in here let's say course ID, and let's also make it constrained. So let's say constrained, and it should be on table courses like this. And we also wanna cascade on delete. So let's say arrow cascade on delete like this. Now the next column that we need is our section title. So this will be a string, and in here let's say title, and next up we need its position. So this one will be big integer, so let's say big integer, and this one will be position, and let's also make it default and also make it index. So let's say arrow default, and default should be 1000, and arrow index parenthesis like this. Now one thing that we should do is that we should remove course items migration model and table that we created in one of our previous videos, because instead we now created the course section, and this name is more appropriate. So to do it, let's get back to the sidebar, and in here let's find course item. So yeah, this one is the migration. Now let's delete it, and let's also delete its model. So yeah, this one is the model. Let's delete this one too, and let's also delete the table. So let's get back to our browser and let's open a new tab, and let's go to phpMyAdmin. So let me type my password, and in here we will go to our online courses database, and this one is the table that we want to drop. So let's drop this table like this. Now next up we want to add the relationships. So let's get back to VS Code and let's first of all open the course model. So in here let's declare all the properties as guarded. So let's say protected and let's say guarded like this, and it should equal to empty array. And if you wanna declare each of the column specifically, you can use fillable property also. Now let's create the sections relationship. So let's say public function and let's say sections, and in here let's return $this arrow has money, and in here let's say course section : class like this. Now let's open the course section model and declare the relationships there too. So in here let's press enter and let's say protected, and this one will be also guarded like this. And for the relationship we can copy it. So let's copy this one from here and we will paste it here like this. So this one is the course itself. So let's say course, and each section relates to a single course, so it will belong. So let's say belongs to like this, and instead of course section let's say course : class. Now let's migrate our new table. So let's get back to the terminal and let's say php artisan migrate, and you can see our table has been created. And to check it out, if we refresh here, now you can see we have course sections. So if we check out the structure, the course ID is foreign key and the position is index. Now next up, before creating the curriculum feature, we need to install the Vue Draggable package. So let's get back to the terminal and let's clear it first. And to install it, we can say yarn add Vue Draggable at next. So it will create the version that is appropriate for Vue version 3. Now let's press enter. So the package has been installed successfully, and you can see it says done. And let's clear the terminal. Now next up, we need to create the curriculum component and import it in our course update component. So let's get back to VS Code, and in here let me make this sidebar a little bit smaller. Now let's close these files because we don't need them anymore, and let's go to the resources and then JS, pages and courses. So in here what I will do is I will create a new file. So let's say new file, and let's name it course curriculum component dot view, and we wanna import this component in our update component. So let's open course update component and let's close the sidebar, and let's also Alt Z to wrap the text. So we will do the same as we did for the course form. So let's copy it and let's paste it for the curriculum here. So you remember the second one was for the curriculum. As you can see, tab page equals to curriculum. Now instead of course form, let's say course curriculum component, and in here we will also send the course info in case we need it. So let's scroll down and let's define the component in here. So I will duplicate this one and let's select this and paste our code like this. Now let's close this course update component and we will start working on curriculum component. So in here, first of all, we need the template tags like this, and in here let's create a grid and then a column in which we will place the button to add a section. So let's say grid calls 1, and let's declare gap 4. So we will show this one based on a condition. So let's say v dash if, and for this one let's say if the course section status is false. Now we will create this one later. So let's say course section status is false. Now inside here let's create the call span. So let's say call span 1, and inside here now we will create our button. So let's say button like this, and for the type let's declare button, and let's press enter here. Now for its classes I will copy and paste some Tailwind CSS classes, and if you wanna copy this too, you can find the link in the description to the repository. You can get the classes from there. So let's paste our code like this, and let me wrap it also. So let's also declare an @click event, and let's name this function course section @. So let's say course section @ like this, and inside this button now we will create a span which will say add section, and we will also create an icon. Now let's create another span, and inside here I will create an icon. So let's give it a class. So let's say for dash caret right, and for the classes of this span I will copy paste it again, and let's paste it here. Now I am copying and pasting these classes because I don't want this video to get very long, and the main reason for this tutorial is for you to learn Laravel with Vue.js in Laravel Jetstream. Now if you read all of these classes, if you are familiar with CSS, these classes are not rocket science, so they are very simple, and you can understand on your own what is going on in here. Now this being done, let's bring our script property. So in here let's say script, and we will export default. So let's say export default curly braces, and in here let's create our data property. So curly braces, and it will return some objects. So first of all let's create the course section status, which is false by default, and next up we have this function. So let's scroll down in here, and after the data let's put a comma, and let's say methods curly braces, and the function name is section course section @. So let's say async course section @, and curly braces. Now because we were passing the course info from the update component also, now we need to declare the prop in here too. So in here let's say props and brackets, and let's say course info like this. Now inside this course section, what I will do is I will assign the course ID here. So let's say this dot course ID. Now we will create this one in a moment, and let's say this dot course info question mark dot ID, and after this we wanna make true the course section status, which is disabling or hiding the button and showing the form elements. So in here let's say this dot course section status. So this one should be status, and let's make this one true like this, and after this we will create a section activity also, so to determine if you are in a create mode or edit mode. So this will be inside our store. Now for this we need to import our store, so we can bring this code from one of our other components. Now let's bring it from this form component. So let's scroll to the top, and yeah, we have this one here. So let's copy it and let's bring it here. So after the data, and let's also import the store itself. So this one is the store, and let's also bring this one like this. Let's paste it in here like this. Now in here, let's say this dot will, let me bring it a little bit to the top. So this dot course dot change section activity, and we want to change it to create like this. Now first of all, let's create this course ID. So in here, let's create it. So let's say we want to duplicate this one, and instead of false it will be empty string, and let's say course underscore ID. And next up, we need to create this change section activity action. So let's go to our store. So let's scroll down in here, and let's go to store and course store, and let me close the sidebar. So we will create it, or we already have one. So what we will do is we will copy it. So let's copy this one, and let's scroll to the down. We will create this one after the course code. So let's paste it here, and this one will be for change section activity. So let's say section activity like this, and let's also create a state. So section underscore activity equals to activity that is coming in parameter. Now we need to create this state at the top. So let's create it after the activity like this. Now this being done, if we check it out in the browser, let's go to the browser and to the project tab. Let me refresh, and if we click on this course and go to the curriculum, you can see our button is showing, and if we click on it, now you can see the button is being hidden. Now we need to show our form element, which is the title for the section, and also the cancel and store or update button. So for the form, guys, we will create a separate component because we want to use the same form for our create and update at the same time. So to not repeat ourselves, we need to separate the code of concern. So this means that we need to create a separate form component. So let's do it. Let's get back to VS Code, and in here let's go to the sidebar, and let's scroll a little bit to the top. So let's right click on courses folder, new file, and let's name this one course and section form component. So let's say section form, this should be form component dot view. Now let's import it first in our curriculum, then we will work on this component. So let's get back to course curriculum component, and let me close the sidebar. So we need to bring our defining our asynchronous component code. So let's get it from here, from our form component. So let's copy this, and let's paste it here, and let's get back to the form component, and let's copy this, and let's bring it here. So let's bring it after the props, and let's customize or rename this component name. So instead of courses list component, we want to say course section form component. Now let's use this component in our template. So let me copy it first, and let's scroll to the top, and let's use it before this grid. So I will import it in here at the top. So in here let's open our bracket, and we want to pass the course ID. So let's say course ID. So this will be ID equals to, and let's say course underscore ID, and we want to show this component based on some conditions. So let's say v dash if, and like this, and let me close the component tag like here. And now let's declare the conditions. So we want to check for the status if it is true, which is the opposite for this button. In here you can see we are checking for the false. So at the component we want to check it for the true like this, and let's put and we also want to check the activity. So if the activity is create, so let's say course dot section activity, and we want to check if this one equals to, so let's say equals to create like this. So this being done, let's work on our form. So let's copy first of all everything that we have in our course form component. So I will Control A and Control C and Control V in here. So let's first of all remove all of the methods because we don't need them. We will do something else. So let's remove them, and let's scroll to the top. So let's remove this code also, and yeah, let's remove these errors, and let's also remove this course item from here, and image preview file name also, and this component loading also. And for this one we have course ID, so let's say course ID in the props. Let's remove this code also, and let's scroll to the top. So let's wrap the text here. Now first of all let's create a grid, and then we will customize it. So let's say grid, and grid calls 1 and gap should be 4, and let's also declare some margin bottom of 4, and inside here we have the input label. So let's bring this one. Well, before that we need to create our call span. So in here let's say call span 1, and let's paste our code. So this one will be for the section title. So in here let's say section title, and this one is also section title. So let's say section title like this, and after the input label let's bring for example a div with a class of flex, because we want to show the input and those buttons in the same line. So let's say flex, and let's say items hyphen center, and gap should be 2, and inside here let's bring the input. So we already have it here. Now I will copy this one, so let's copy it and let's bring it here like this. So for the view model, well, this one's ID should be section title, and for the view model let's say course section data, and the title is alright. So this one is just fine. So autocomplete is off. Now next up let's bring the validation message. So we already have it here. Now let's copy it and let's bring it outside this div in here. So instead of course data we have course section data like this, and we are checking for the title. Now inside this flex div we have those buttons, so let's declare them, and this one will have an icon. So let's say class, and let's say for dash times, and let's also give it some width of 4 and height of 4 also. And for the button classes, what I will do is I will copy and paste. So let's paste the classes, and this one is already red, so I will create another button here. Now let's duplicate it like this. So for this button we only want to change the red to green, so let's say green like this, and for instead of icon times we have check, so let's say check. And we also want a spinner here, so we can bring that one from the bottom. Well, we already have it here. So if we scroll down to our buttons, and yeah, this is the button, and this one is our spinner. So let's copy this and let's scroll to the top. Let's go from here. So we want to paste it inside the button. Now we will declare some conditions for this one. So let's start from this other button. Now this button has an add click event, so let's declare first that one. So let's say add click, and this one will cancel the form. So let's say course section form cancel, like this. And next up we have this other button, so let's declare some add click event to this one. So let's say add click, and we want to check for the activity. So let's say course dot section activity, and if it equals to create, then we want to store. So let's say course section store, and else we want to update. So let's say course section update, like this. Now next up, what we want to do is we want to disable the button when it is clicked. So let's add disabled attribute here, and we want to disable it on button disabled true. So let's say disabled true, like this. And for this spinner we will create another condition or object. So let's say v dash f, and whenever we have spinner status false, we want to show this check icon. So let's say exclamation mark spinner status, and if the spinner status is true, we want to show the spinner itself, like this. Now one thing more, whenever we open this form, we want to focus on this input field. So for that we need to define a reference for this one, or ref. So let's say ref, and let's name it section title input. So let's say section title underscore input, like this. Now this is all for the HTML, and now let's declare all these objects that we defined here and all the functions that we declared in here. So let's scroll down. Now what I will do is I will remove this form because we don't need this anymore. So let's remove it like this. So like this. And let's also remove this auth store because we don't need it. And in here now let's say, well, let's first create the spinner status. So let's say spinner status, and by default it is false. And then we have course section data, so let's say section data in here, and the ID is alright. Then we have the title, and we also have the course ID. So let's declare that one also. So course underscore ID. Now we don't have cover image or description, so let's remove it. So let's scroll down. Well, in our props, let's also get the course info, or we don't need it anymore. We only need it for the update, and we are also not passing it now, so let's focus it in the future. Now let's scroll down. So this one is for the disable button status event, and we also want one for the spinner. So in here let's say spinner status. So let's say spinner status, and let's say this one should be also spinner status, like this. Now let's declare the code for the autofocus on the input. So in here let's say this dot $sign nest tick, and let's declare a function. So it will be arrow function and curly braces, and in here let's say this dot $sign refs and dot section title input, and we want to focus. So let's say dot focus parenthesis, like this. And after this we have the computed properties. So let's remove the auth from here because we don't need it anymore. And now let's declare the methods. So one of the method is for cancelling the form. So let's say async and course section form cancel, and inside here we will call an event. So this event will be in our curriculum component. Let me see if I declared it or not. So yeah, we don't have it. Now let's declare it. So what we can do is we can bring the mounted from here. So I will copy it like this, and let's bring it in here. Well, let's bring it after the computed property. Now in here we don't need this next tick. Let's remove it, and we don't need the spinner code also, so let's remove it. And for this one, let's say course section status, and we wanna declare the course section status. So let's say course section status, and the parameter will be assigned. Now this being done, let's get back to our form component, and let's just scroll down. So in here now let's call to that event. So await window dot emitter, and then dot emit, and we want to call course section status, and we want to make it false. And then we want to empty the section activity. So this dot course, and this should be await also. So this dot course dot change section activity, and we want to make it empty like this. Now let's create the store function. So async course section store, and let's say curly braces. So in here we will write the code for the store, and let's duplicate it. So this one will be for the update. So let's say update like this. Now let's test our forum and see how it looks. So let's get back to the browser, and let me refresh first. So let's open this course and let's go to the curriculum, and yeah, we have some kind of error here, and yeah, you can see this is from, so it should be form. So let's get back to the code, and we are importing it in the curriculum component. So this one is misspelled, so let's make it forum like this, and this one should be also forum, and let's also declare in here forum like this. And now you can see its color has been changed, so now it is recognizable. So let's refresh, and let's click on this, and let's go to curriculum, and if you click on this, now you can see our form is showing, and if we cancel it, you can see it is cancelling also. So now let's create the store functionality. So if we click on this button, we want to store the section, and we also want to close the forum and show the add button again. So let's get back to VS Code, and let's scroll down in here. Well, yeah, we need to go to the forum component. So we already have declared the function here. So in here, let's say this dot course section data, and dot course ID should equal to await. This should be await, and this dot course ID. So this should be course ID like this. And now we wanna call the course store action and send the data. So let's say await this dot course section store, and we want to send this dot course section data like this. Now let's create this action. So let's copy it, and let's go to course store. So we will declare it at the very bottom. So in here, let's say async, and let's paste it, and we have course section data. So let's say course section data, and let's say curly braces like this. Now let's copy the code from one of the other actions in here. So for example, from this course store, because we are doing pretty much the same. So what I will do is I will copy this, and let's scroll down in here, and let's paste our code like this. Now let's customize it. So we need to disable the button, and we also want to make or show the spinner. So let's duplicate this one, and for this one, let's say spinner status should be true, instead of course store we want to say course section store. So let's paste it, and let's also copy this parameter and paste it for this post request. And we don't want to close the model, so let's remove this code from here. But we want to close the forum, so we already have an event for that one. So let's copy this code from here and let's paste it here. So for this one we have course section status, so let's say course underscore section status, and we want to make this one, let's say, false. So this should be false like this. Now this being done, after we create a course section successfully, we want to push it to the array of courses. Well, we don't have it now, but let's write the code and I will comment it because in the future or in the upcoming minutes of this video we will need it. So let's say this dot, and let's name this state course sections dot push, and we want to push response dot data like this, and let's comment it for now. So for the fire toast message we have information saved successfully, and that's okay. And finally we want to disable the button status false, and we also want to make false the spinner status. So let's copy this and let's paste it here. So this one should be also made false. Now this being done, now we want to create this endpoint. So let's open the API file. So let's say api.php, and in here let's first write a comment here. So this is course routes, and let's press enter here, and let's say, well, this should be for course section routes. Now we can duplicate this one and let's bring it here. So let's paste our code like this. Now we need to open this controller, so let's say control P, and let's say course controller, and in here let's create it or declare it at the very bottom. So public function course section store, we have a request, so $request and curly braces. Now we can copy the code from these other functions. So let's copy it from the store function here. So we already have this store function, and then we will customize it. So let's copy it till this part, and let's scroll down like this. Now for the validation, we have the course ID and the title, so let's remove this one. And for the first validation, let's say course ID, and this should be required, and we also want to check that the course ID should exist in the courses table. So let's say a pipe symbol, and let's declare our exists validation. So let's say exists, and we want to check in the courses table. So this should be courses, and we want to check the ID field like this. Next up we have the DB transaction. We don't have any file, so let's remove the file code like this. And yeah, well, for the position we also want to write some code. So in here let's press enter, and let's get the max position from the database. So let's say $last position, so it should equal to db : table courses or course sections, and in here let's say arrow where course ID equals to $request arrow course ID, and we want to get the max value. So let's say max position like this. Now let's calculate the new position. So in here let's say new position, well, this should be position, and this should equal to the last position. And if we don't have any course section, we want to declare it 1. So let's say last position. Well, if we have last position, we wanna add 1 to it, so it will be the new position. And if we don't have any last positions, we want to declare it 1 by default. Now let's store the course section. So in here, let's say underscore sections, and because we want to get the last inserted ID also, so let's use insert get ID here, and we will store it in a variable. So let's say $sign course section ID should equal to this query, and we don't have the created by field, so let's remove it. And we have the course ID, so let's select this one, and let's say course underscore ID, and then we have the title, and then we have the position, so this will be position, and we want to assign the new position. So in here, let's say new position like this. We don't have any description, so let's remove it. And then we want to update the created at and also the updated at. So let's say updated at like this. And after this, we want to get the latest section that we created and send it to the front end. So in here, let's say course underscore section should equal to db : table course sections, and let's say where ID equals to course section ID, and we want to get the first one, so let's say first like this. Now this being done, let's create this one at the very top outside the transaction. So let's say like this, and it will be null, and let's also use it in our function here. So let's also pass it as a null, so and $sign course section, and now finally we can send it in the response. So let's select the success message, and instead we want to send course section like this. Now this being done, let's test our code. So let's get back to the browser. I will refresh, and let's scroll down. Let's try to create a section. So let's say section 1, and if we save it, you can see information saved successfully. And if we go back to the database, now let me log in, so you can see our section has been created successfully. Now this being done, the next part is to fetch all the course sections and show it as draggable accordions. So let's get back to VS Code, and in here, well, we didn't save this one, so let's save it, and it's also indented a little bit like this. And let's go to our curriculum component, because this is where we want to get all of our sections. So we need to write the code in our mounted hook. So in here, let's say await, and let's say this dot course sections get, and we want to get based on the course ID. So let's say this dot course info and ID. Well, we need to put a dot in here, and you remember we passed this course info earlier, so you can see we have this prop already in here. Now we need to create this action, so let's go to course store, and let's create it above the course section store action. So in here, let's say async course sections get, and we have the course underscore ID, so curly braces, and let's also put our comma here. So in here, let's try curly braces, and let's catch the errors here. So let's say error curly braces, and inside the error, let's console log error, and let's also fire the toast message. So we already have something like this in here, so let's paste it in here. And for the try, let's send our request. So let's declare first of all the URL. So let URL should equal to tilde marks /API/course sections get, and a question mark course ID as the parameter, $ curly braces course ID variable, like this. Now we wanna create our response, so let's say const response should equal to, let's say, await axios.get, and we want to get the URL like this, and then we want to store it in a state. So let's say this dot course sections, so underscore sections should equal to response dot data. Now we need to create this action, and let's also uncomment that previous code. So now we have this course sections action. So let's just scroll to the top, and yeah, let's create it after the courses. So I will paste it like this. Now we need to create the endpoint. So course sections get, so let's go to api.php and let's duplicate this one. So this one should be course sections get, and the method should be get, like this. Now let's create this function in our controller. So let's get back to the controller and let's create it at the top of this course section store. So in here let's say public function course sections get, and we have request. So let's say request $request curly braces, and let's create the query first. So let's say query should equal to course section : where course underscore ID, well, this should equal to the request arrow course underscore ID, and then let's say arrow we want to order by, so let's say order by, and we want to order by position that we have in our table. And now we want to get, so let's say course sections should equal to the query, well, this should be query arrow get parentheses like this, and let's return it. So let's say return response, and then we have JSON, so let's say arrow JSON, and in here let's say course sections like this. Now we need to import our model at the top, so let's bring it at the very top after the course model like this, and this should work, guys. And yeah, this should work. Now we will be showing these course sections as draggable properties, so let's import our package. So in here let's press enter, and let's say import, let's say draggable as, or let's say from, and we wanna import it from Vue Draggable like this, and let's register this component in here. So let's put a comma here and let's paste it like this. Now we can use it at the very top. So we will show our course sections at the very top before the create form. So in here let's create a div. So let's say this should be div, and for the classes I will copy paste it. So let's paste our code, and we also want to declare a condition for this div. So let's say v-if, and we want to check the length of course sections. So let's say course, and let's say course sections, so we have it at the very end, and let's say dot length is greater than 0. Then we want to show what is inside this div. So now let's create our draggable components. So let's say draggable, and let's close it like this. So for this one we have some attributes. So we have v-model, and for this one we want to declare the course sections. So let's say course dot course underscore sections, and then we have the item key. So let's say item hyphen key, and this will be the ID, and then we have the at end. So this one is the event that will call upon we drag one of the elements. So let's say at end, and let's say it should equal to course section position update. So position update like this. Now inside this draggable component, let's create another, or let's create a template first. So I will create a template first, and for this template, let's say hash item should equal to curly braces element, and let's say course underscore section comma index. Now you can check all of these in the browser. You can go to Vue Draggable components GitHub repository, and this is all documented in there. Now inside this template, let's create a div. So again, for the classes, I will copy and paste it. So let's paste it, guys. And inside here, what I will do is I will create a div. So let's create a div, and let's create an hdo. So inside this hdo, we have a button, and type should be button. So let's say type should be button, and we also want some classes, and let's paste it like this. And this will have an add click event. So let's say add click. Well, this one is for the accordion. So let's say toggle accordion. Well, this should be one eye like this. And we also want to pass the course section ID. So let's say course section dot ID. And inside the button, let's create a div. And for this div, we will have an icon. So let's say I, and this one will have a class. So let's say for dash grip, and let's also declare some margin 2. And then we have the section title. So let's declare a span, and in here let's say course section dot title. Well, this should be section like this. And after the span, let's create another icon. So this one will have a class. So let's say for dash edit, and let's declare some margin and text. Let's say text should be green, and for 100 hover scale 125, and we'll also declare some transition like this. So let's declare an add click event for this one. So let's say add click, and this one will be course section edit, and we want to send the course section. So let's say course section, and let's duplicate it. So I will duplicate it like this. This one will be for the delete. So let's say trash, instead of green we want to make it red, and for the add click we want to say course section delete like this. Now after this, we want to create some icons for the accordion also. So we can create them after this div. So let's press enter here, and let's say I, and let's say class. This one should be for dash caret dash down, and let's declare a v dash f. So v dash f, and we want to check if is open. So we want to check the specific course section ID. So let's say course section dot ID, and we will declare another one. So this one will be v dash else, and this one will be caret up. So let's say up like this. Now next up, we need to create the accordion body. So let's create it after this hdo. So in here let's declare a div. So it will have a class of, let's say, padding 4 and md padding 5 and text body. So let's say text body, and let's also declare a condition. So v dash show, we want to show this one only if there is an active ID. So let's say is open course underscore section dot ID. Now inside here, let's create a grid. So grid calls 1, gap should be 4, and let's say call span 1, and inside here we have a button. So let's say button, let's declare the type for it. So type, it is also button, and we have some classes, so let's declare the classes. Now for the classes I will copy paste it. So let's paste our code. Now for the text of the button, let's declare a span. So let's say add lesson, and then we have another span. So let's declare a span here. Well, we can copy this one from our other code, so we already have it here. Now let's copy this here and let's bring it here like this. Now for now we won't work on this one, so let's leave it as it is. Now next up we need to create all the objects we used in here and all the functions. So let's just scroll down, and first of all in our data property let's create a open section ID, so it will be null by default. And then we have course section status, which we already have, and let's also create an active course section. So active course section, and this will be empty, and we already have the course ID. So next up we have course section ID, so let's say course section ID, and let's also declare another one. So selected course, so let's say selected course section. We will use these in a moment for our update feature. So for now let's create the function. So let's scroll down, and first of all we have the toggle accordion. So let's say toggle accordion, and for this one we have ID curly braces. So inside here we want to check, so let's say if this dot open section ID equals to the ID, like this. Then what we want to do is we want to make the open section ID null and active course section also empty. So let's say this dot open section ID should equal to null, and then we want to say this dot active course section like this equal to empty string, and let's declare the else. So in here let's say else, and inside this else what we will do is we will assign. So let's say this dot open section ID should equal to ID, and then we have this dot active section or active course section, and this should equal to ID also, like this. Now let's create the isOpen function. So let's put a comma here, and let's say isOpen, we have ID. So in here let's say curly braces, and for this one what we will do is we will return this dot open section ID, and this should equal to the ID. So this is a condition. Now let's put a comma here. Now next up we have the course section positions update. So in here let's say course section position update, and for now I will leave it empty. So yeah, this is all for draggable component. Now what we need to do is we need to cancel our asset compilation and rerun it again to compile everything. And let's get back to the browser and project tab, and let's control F5 to hard reload everything. And now let's try to check it out. So let's go to the curriculum, and yeah, it's not showing. So let's open our console and see what's wrong. And you know guys what, we have a missing equal sign in here. So it should be like this, and now it will get the course sections. So if you click on this and go to curriculum, and now you can see it is showing just fine. Now next up, what we want to do is, whenever we change the course section status, I want the course section ID to be emptied. So let's get back to the VS Code, and in here let's go to the curriculum, which is in here. So in here we already have this emitter, so let's say this dot course section ID. So this should equal to empty string. And one thing more that I want to do is, whenever we select another course, we want to reset the course sections state, because it will show the other sections from another course for a very short period of time. So let's do this one also. So what I will do is, let's do it in our list component. So let's go to the list component here, and in here if we scroll down, and yeah, we will do it in this course edit. So in here let's say await this dot course dot reset course section or course sections, like this. Now let's create this action. So we will create it in our course store. So let's scroll a little bit to the top, and we will create it after this change activity. So in here let's paste it. It doesn't have any parameters, so this one will be, let's say, course sections. So let's say underscore sections, and we wanna make it empty. So let's say empty array, like this. Now next up we have the draggable update of positions. So for now, if we check it out, let me go to the curriculum, you can see it is draggable, but it is not updating the database. So if we go back to the other, and you can see it is back in its place. So now we want to update it. So we already have the function for this one. So let's go to the curriculum component and scroll down. So in here we have this course section position update. So now we will work on this one. So in here let's say const, and we want to get sections. So it should equal to this dot course dot, let's say, course sections, and we want to map. So let's say map, and in here let's say section comma index and an arrow function. So we want to get the position. So let's say section dot position should equal to index plus 1, and then we want to return. So let's say return new positions. So ID, and let's say section dot ID, and then we want to send new positions. So let's say position should equal to section dot position, like this. And after this we want to call an action in our course store. So we can say this dot course dot, well, let's copy the function name and paste it here, so it will be the same, and we want to send the sections like this. Now we need to create this action. So let's go to course store, and let's create it after the store function in here. So let's put a comma here, and let's say async, like this, and we have sections and curly braces. So for this one, let's copy and paste this request from here. So let's paste it in here, and instead of data, let's say Axios in here, and we want to post. So for the endpoint, let's copy this and paste it in here, and let's put a comma here, curly braces, and we want to say course underscore sections should equal to the sections that is in parameter, like this. Now next up we have the response, which we don't need, so let's remove it. And we also don't need the emitter and this other code which is pushing the data, but we do need the toast fire. So information saved successfully, and we also want to catch the errors. So this is all for our action. Now let's create this endpoint. So let's go to the API and let's duplicate this one, and let's paste our code in here, and let's create the controller function. So let's scroll down, and in here let's press enter, public function, paste our code, and in here we have request $request and curly braces. So first of all, let's get the sections. So let's say sections should equal to $request arrow course sections, and we want to create db transaction. So let's say transaction, and it will take a function like this, and we want to use sections. So let's say sections and curly braces, and inside here let's for each. So let's for each, and we want to for each the sections as section, and in here let's say curly braces, and we want to update. So let's say db : table course sections, and we want to check where id is equal to section arrow, or let's declare brackets id, and then we want to update. So let's say arrow update parenthesis brackets. So we want to update the position. So in here let's say position should equal to $section brackets new position, and let's also declare or update the updated at field. So let's say updated at, and it should equal to now parenthesis like this. And finally we can return the response as a success. So return response JSON, and let's say success like this. Now let's check this one out. So let's get back to the browser and let's refresh, and if we click on edit, let's go to curriculum, and let's try to update this one, and you can see information saved successfully. And if I go to the other component and get back here, you can see it is still updated. So this one is also fixed. Now next up, let's work on the update. So the accordion is working, so we need to fix the update. For now we only have its function declared on the button. Now let's create it. So let's get back to VS Code, and let's go to curriculum component, and let's create it after course section add. So in here let's put a comma, and let's say async course section edit, and we have course section and parameter. So let's say course underscore section curly braces, and then here let's say this dot selected. So selected course section should equal to the course section like this, and let's say this dot course section id should equal to course section underscore or dot id. So dot id like this. And next up we have the course id itself. So let's say this dot course underscore id should equal to this dot course info dot id. And next up we have the course section status, so which is the form. So let's say this dot course section status, and we want to make this one true like this. And we also want to change the section activity, so we already have it here. So let's copy this like this, and let's paste it here, and this time we want to say edit. Now for the inline component we need to write the code. So let's scroll to the top. So in here we have this component, and this one is for the create. So we want to do the same for the edit. So let's scroll to the top. Now let's paste it after this border B. So I will paste it in here. And now for the course ID, well, it is alright, we are sending it, and we also want to send the selected course section. So in here let's say course section info should equal to let's say selected course section. So selected course section like this. And for the v-if, we want to check the course section ID if it is equal to the course section ID that we assigned. So let's say course section dot ID, and we want to check if it is equal to course section underscore ID. And let's also declare and instead of create here, let's say we want to check for the edit activity. Now for this div, then we want to hide it, so in here v-else like this. Now next up, we need to assign the data in our form. So let's go to the form, so course section form, and this can be done in our mounted hook. So in here let's press enter, and in here let's say this dot course section data dot ID should equal to this dot course section, so this should be section info dot ID. Now we need to import this prop also, so let's import it in here like this, and let's scroll back to the down. So next up we have the title, so let's select this one and let's say title like this. Now we already have the update function here, so we will work on it in a moment, but first let's check out our form. So let me refresh first. So let's open edit course, go to curriculum, and let's try to click on this, and now you can see it is working just fine. Well, let's also add some padding based on some conditions for this. So let's get back to the, for example, browser or VS Code. But before that, I want to show you another bug also. And you can see that our accordion has automatically opened, and that is because if we click on the edit button and cancel this, accordion also opens. So to fix this one, after the add click, we need to declare another property which is a stop. So let's get back to the VS Code and let's go to our section or our curriculum component, and in here let's find the edit button which is in here. So in here let's say dot stop, and let's also do the same for the delete. So let's say dot stop like this. So what this will do is stop in this add click and will not reach the add click of its parent element. Now let's declare the conditional padding. So let's go to our form and let's scroll to the very top. So in here let's bind it to view object and grab everything inside tilde marks to convert it to string, and in here let's say $sign curly braces, and we want to check course dot section activity if it is equal to edit. So let's say question mark, then we want to put some padding, so p-4, and else we want to return empty. So let's get back to the browser and let's refresh. So let's try to edit, go to curriculum and let's try to edit, and now you can see it is looking much better. And if I cancel it, now you can see section is not being opened. Now let's work on the update. So let's get back to VS Code and let's scroll to the very down. So let's copy this one from here because we are doing the same. So let's paste it here and let's also indent it a little bit. Let's copy this and let's paste it here like this. Now we need to create this action. So let's get back to our course store. Well, we already have this one, so let's copy it because we are doing a lot the same. So let's paste it here like this. And instead of store, we have update. So let's say update. So in here everything looks good, but instead of push, we wanna get the specific index and only change that course section data. So to do this, let's say const updated course section should equal to response. Well, this should be response.data, and after this let's say const index is equal to this dot course dot or course underscore sections. Well, this should be course underscore sections, and then dot find index, and let's say c arrow function c dot id equals to updated course section dot id, and then we want to check for the index. So let's say if index is not equal to -1, then we want to assign the data. So let's say this dot course underscore sections, and we want that specific index equal to updated course section. So this should be updated this should be updated course section like this. Now instead of saved, let's say updated successfully like this. Now the other code looks good. Now let's create this endpoint. So I will copy it, go to api.php, and let's duplicate this one. So let's paste our code, and let's go to course controller. So let's create it after this one, public function course section update. So we have request in the parameter and curly braces. So let's copy the code from this other function that we have. So let's copy it like this, and let's just scroll down. So I will paste it in here like this. Now in here what we will do is we will validate the ID like this. So it should exist for example in the course sections table. So let's say course sections table ID, and then we want to validate the title itself. So after this let's update the course section. We don't need the transaction. Now let's copy this one from here, and I will remove this like this, and instead of doing it like this, let's remove this variable because we don't need it. And in here let's say where id, let's say equals to $request arrow id, and in here let's say arrow update. So we want to update the title only, and also the updated at column like this. And after this we want to get the updated course, so course section. So let's copy this, or let's cut it, and let's bring it here like this, and let's remove this db transaction because we don't need it anymore like this. And yeah, that's all. Well, instead of course section ID here we have a request ID. So let's say request arrow ID like this. Now let's check our code. So let's get back to the browser, and yeah, let's open edit, and let's try to update this one. So let's try to say updated, and let's click on this, and yeah, we have some kind of error here. So to check it, call to undefined method update, and yeah, we have misspelling. So this one should be update like this, and we don't need to refresh because it is only the backend change. So if I save it, now you can see it is working just fine. Now this being done, now is the time to create the delete functionality. So we already have the function for it. So let's get back to VS Code, and let's go to our curriculum, or our curriculum component. So let's go here, and let's scroll to the very down, and yeah, well, after the edit we need to create our delete. So in here let's say assign course section delete, and we have course section. So let's say course section and then curly braces like this. Now for this one we will use Suite Alert model dialog. So let's go to our browser and let's open a new tab. Let's search for Suite Alert in the URL, and let's go to this first link. So in here, if we scroll down, and we should see a dialog box. So this one is the confirm dialog. Now let's copy this code from here. So let me copy it, and let's get back to our VS Code and let's paste it here. So let's indent it a little bit for clean code, or I will control A everything, and let's say format document with Vue official. So in here let's customize it, and everything looks good. So we don't need this wildfire, so let's remove it, and instead inside the confirm, so you want to call our delete action. So let's say await, and let's say this dot course section and delete, and we want to send the course section. So let's say course underscore section like this, and for this await we have to async in here also. Now we need to create this action, so let's go to our course store. So let's scroll to the very down, let's create it after the update. So async course section delete, and in here we have course section as a parameter, curly braces. So what we can do in here is copy some other code from here. Well, let's copy the one that we did for the position update. So let's copy this, let's scroll down and let's paste it here. So let's copy the action name and paste it in the URL. So it will be post, and instead of course section we wanna send the course section ID like this, and we wanna get it from course underscore section dot ID, which is coming in the parameter. Now on successful delete we wanna remove the course section from the course sections array that we have, which is our state. So we can copy the code from here. So let's copy this code and let's scroll down. So let's paste it in here. So first we need the index, and we can get that from course sections, but instead of updated course section we have now this course section parameter. So let's paste it here like this, and after we get the index we want to remove it from course sections state. So we want splice, so let's remove this, and in here let's say this dot course sections dot splice, and we want to splice the index, and let's say we want one row. For the success message, let's say information deleted successfully. Now this being done, let's create this endpoint in our API file. So let me duplicate this one and let's paste our code, and let's go to our controller. So let's create the function at the very bottom. So public function course section delete, and we have a request, then $ request and curly braces. So in here we can copy this code from here. So let's copy it and let's paste it here, but instead of getting the course section, now we want to say delete, and we want to return a success message. So we can copy that one too. So let's copy it from here and let's bring it in here like this. So one thing we need to change is that in our request we don't have ID, instead we have course underscore section underscore ID like this. Now this being done, let's check our code. So let's get back to the browser and to our project tab. So let's refresh and let's scroll down, let's open this, let's go to curriculum, and let's try to delete this one. So I will click on it. You can see Suite Alert is working, and yes, deleted, and you can see it has been deleted successfully. And that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and it has been a very long video, but I'm sure it is worth it. You have learned a lot of things in this video, so don't forget to like and share. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel too, so you don't miss any upcoming tutorials. Now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.